Welcome to Wildlife Wednesday. As days are getting colder and shorter here in Montana, I've been thinking about how some animals are going to start hibernating. But that got me thinking, what exactly is hibernation? Let's talk to an expert to learn some more. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, Corey.
So we are trying to learn about hibernation, and we're wondering if you can help us out. So first of all, what is hibernation?
Well, hibernation is a period in which animals slow way down their bodily processes to conserve energy. So hibernation is actually part of a family of reduced metabolic periods that animals go through depending on their environmental conditions. So hibernation is usually associated with winter, cold climates. Estivation is usually associated with extreme heat, and torpor is more of a temporary period of dormancy or reduced activity.
Ah, interesting. So why do animals need to hibernate?
You know, with bears, a lot of people think the cold is the reason that they're going into hibernation, but really it's the lack of food that accompanies cold in the northern latitudes in North America. So snow doesn't bother bears as much as it does covers up the food that they need to get.
Oh, that makes sense. So on that note, when do bears hibernate? Do they all hibernate at the same time?
They don't all hibernate at the same time, although they're as a general rule, they're in hibernation by the beginning of December, and they're starting to come out of hibernation typically in the beginning of March. But in the springtime, when bears are coming out of hibernation, they actually have, you could say, like a parade of different genders and the age of cubs that are coming out. So the first bears to come out are usually the older males. They're early in the season, and then later the older females with the oldest cubs, and then the females with the very youngest cubs, they come out last in like late April and into May. And that's so that they can separate themselves physically on the landscape from those big males, but also gives them more time in the den with their cubs for the cubs to develop and get stronger before they're out in the world.
Wow, I did not know that. It's a parade of bears. So can bears wake up in the middle of hibernation? Do they ever come out in the middle of the winter?
They do. And the fact that they can be woken up by people disrupting them or other animals is why there has been in the past some controversy about whether or not they're true hibernators, but they are indeed true hibernators. In fact, they're what I would call super hibernator. They do amazing things all during hibernation, and they can get woken up. Sometimes they wake up. They can be disturbed by people or other animals, or sometimes we've had in this early spring, if there's a lot of water, like it rains or it gets warm, they can have their den flood and get up out of hibernation in the middle of the winter. I don't know what causes it. I don't think anyone knows for sure, but we've had, like in Yellowstone Park, grizzlies wake up in the middle of winter, spend a few days or more out of the den, and then go back into the den. So
wow.
Yeah, so it's not a hard and fast rule that they stay asleep all winter, but most of them do. Yeah. So both grizzlies and black bears can give birth or do give birth in their dens during hibernation. And so the females will give birth and then fall back into the state of hibernation while the cubs are a lot awake and active, nursing and moving around the den as they grow the first winter. And then after that, they're actually hibernating with their mothers in the den. So black bears for one more year and grizzlies for two more years.
So the mom is hibernating while the cubs are awake and nursing.
Yeah, the year that they're newborns. Yeah,
wow.
The year that they're newborns. Yep.
That's pretty
amazing. Pretty amazing. And if you imagine, like, this is why I think they're really super hibernators, is that their body temperature and heart rate all drop really low while they're hibernating. Then they're not urinating or defecating or eating or drinking the entire winter. And then for those moms out there, you imagine they give birth, they don't eat or drink, then they're nursing their cubs without the additional water coming into their bodies during that period.
That is crazy. Yeah. That is amazing. Super hibernators for sure.
Yeah.
So another question I have is, have you ever seen a den where a bear hibernates, or where do these dens usually exist?
Yeah, so bears dig dens and depends on where the bear is and the habitat that's available to them. But in a lot of places in Montana, it's higher elevation. Usually it's a north slope was preferred because the snow will accumulate more. If you think about it in winter, the angle of the sun is mostly hitting southern slopes. And so the north slopes will hold snow for longer. So a lot of times north slopes are preferred. Sometimes under the roots of a tree or in a nice protected natural rock cave.
Yeah.
I have found a couple of bear dens when I've been out in the woods, and it's important to note that bears don't use their dens in the summer. They're only for hibernating, so they don't go back and like hang out there.
They don't go take naps in their den.
So the times that I have visited bear dens have only been in the middle of the summer when there's no risk of running into a bear at that den.
Okay.
You wouldn't want to be looking around for bear dens in the fall when they're getting ready. Definitely not in the winter. And then in the spring when they're waking up, they may hang around the den entrance for a few weeks while they're getting back to normal. So and the den that sticks out in my mind the most is this amazing rock den that we found. It was one that a black bear female and cubs had used for multiple years. Sometimes if it's a nice enough pre-existing rock den, they'll use it more than 1 year, but with dirt dens, they're often going to redig those dens so they don't have the roof, probably because they're unstable after a few years.
Right.
But this one had been perpetually used by this black bear, and it was pretty cool. We climbed into it and found elk skull inside the den and a lot of bedding material where the bears will pull in like tree boughs or soft grasses to lay on to make it comfortable.
Wow.
On that too. And then we also suspect we found, I forget the name of it. It's the scat that they make in the spring. That's essentially like it's really high in fibers. It's a lot of grass and it kind of plugged them up during the whole winter. So they get rid of it in the spring when they wake up.
Wow, that is so cool. Well, thank you so much for all that information, Danielle. I definitely learned a lot about hibernation. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.